January 17, 1945. The Philippine jungle wakes slowly under a thin veil of mist. Each breath of wind carries the metallic scent of rain-soaked earth. Somewhere in the distance, the faint rattle of machine gun fire echoes against the canopy, a ghostly warning to those who dare move through the tangled undergrowth. Private James Callahan crouches behind a fallen palm, his heart hammering against the weight of his pack. In his hand, a pistol no bigger than a diary feels almost comically small against the vast threat around him. The men of his unit had laughed at it earlier, dismissing it as a toy unfit for battle. Now, in the eerie green silence, that tiny weapon might be the difference between life and death. Through the thick foliage, shadows flicker. 7 enemy snipers have made the jungle their kingdom, each hidden in plain sight, each waiting for the slightest hint of movement. Every step forward could be his last. Every heartbeat is a countdown. And yet Callahan moves. Slowly, purposefully, with that tiny pistol gripped like a lifeline, he steps into the teeth of danger. The Pacific War in early 1945 had reached a pivotal stage. American forces were advancing steadily through the Philippines, island by island, each one a stepping stone toward the ultimate goal, retaking the archipelago from entrenched Japanese forces. The campaign had been costly, brutal, and unrelenting. Japanese defenders, though often outnumbered, had perfected the art of camouflage, ambush, and psychological warfare. Every hill, every grove of trees, every abandoned structure could conceal a lethal opponent. The battle that brought Private James Callahan to the edge of this jungle nightmare was not a large-scale confrontation but a reconnaissance and skirmish operation near a small coastal village on Leyte. The village had once been a thriving settlement, but months of bombardment, artillery shelling, and scorched earth tactics had reduced it to rubble. The Allies knew that controlling these pockets was essential. Japanese snipers had been systematically harassing supply lines, targeting officers, and slowing the advance of American units. Even a single hidden sniper could inflict casualties disproportionate to their numbers. Callahan's unit, a reinforced infantry platoon drawn from the 1st Cavalry Division, had been tasked with clearing the jungle paths and scouting ahead for enemy positions. The men were weary. Days of marching through ankle-deep mud, under oppressive heat, had left them drained. Malaria and dysentery claimed almost as many men as enemy bullets. The Japanese, in contrast, were masters of endurance in the tropical environment. They moved silently, rarely revealing themselves except when striking with deadly precision. Weapons played a crucial role in this environment. While rifles and machine guns dominated the battlefield, small arms, pistols, carbines, and even knives proved indispensable for close encounters. In the dense foliage, engagements could happen at terrifyingly short distances, where speed, accuracy, and nerves of steel mattered more than firepower alone. Callahan's pistol, derided earlier as too small to matter, would prove this point in a way no one could have predicted. The psychological toll on soldiers in such operations was immense. Every snapping twig, every rustle in the underbrush, could be an enemy's scope trained on them. Platoons often moved in complete silence, relying on hand signals and whispered commands. Leaders had to balance aggression with caution, understanding that one misstep could cost lives. And yet, in this jungle, courage was not measured by firepower but by the willingness to advance despite overwhelming uncertainty. Intelligence reports had warned of increased sniper activity in the region. Japanese marksmen had learned to exploit the thick canopy, using the sun and shadows to mask their positions. Patrols that had underestimated these hidden killers had been ambushed repeatedly. For American soldiers like Callahan, the notion of an isolated sniper was no longer theoretical, it was a deadly reality. The terrain itself shaped the battle. The jungle was an endless tangle of palms, ferns, and creeping vines, interspersed with ruined huts and abandoned foxholes. Visibility was limited to mere yards, and sounds were easily distorted, making it almost impossible to determine the origin of gunfire. Supply lines were fragile, and extraction points were distant. A soldier cut off from his unit could face a prolonged struggle for survival, hunted by opponents who thrived in the shadows. Amid this tension, leadership mattered more than ever. Non-commissioned officers had to make split-second decisions to protect their men while achieving mission objectives. The platoon commander who had assigned Callahan's unit understood the risks but knew the stakes. Securing this jungle path would prevent Japanese snipers from cutting off larger supply convoys and ensure the next phase of the campaign could proceed without interruption. Yet, for the men on the ground, abstract strategy was irrelevant. What mattered was the immediate threat, the unseen enemies watching, waiting, calculating. In this context, the size of one's weapon, the discipline of training, and the courage to act could all determine who survived the day. Callahan's pistol, laughed at in barracks and dismissed by peers, would soon challenge every assumption about power, precision, and valor in the heart of the Philippine jungle. And so the stage was set. The jungle held its secrets tightly, concealing danger in every shadow. Callahan, with only his tiny pistol, would soon step into that hidden world, where skill, nerve, and determination would be tested to their absolute limits. The Philippine jungle was a crucible that tested more than physical endurance. It tested the mind. Soldiers like Private Callahan were constantly aware that the enemy could be watching, unseen but always present. Each step through the tangled undergrowth was a negotiation with death. The air was thick with humidity and the scent of decay, a sensory reminder that life and death were intertwined in every rustle of leaves. Small unit patrols were the lifeblood of jungle operations. A single misjudged movement could draw fire from Japanese snipers, who had mastered the art of patience. These men often remained motionless for hours, their weapons barely visible through the dense foliage. They were trained to observe, to wait for a target to make a fatal mistake. Even experienced soldiers could be caught off guard, their instincts alone insufficient to warn them of impending danger. Supply lines were equally precarious. Rations were limited, and ammunition was rationed carefully. A platoon could not afford to waste bullets on speculative shots. Precision and discipline were paramount. In this environment, even a small pistol, though underestimated, could become a vital tool for survival. It was light, quick to draw, and reliable at close range, qualities that could turn the tide in encounters that occurred at a matter of feet rather than yards. Morale in the platoon was fragile. Days of skirmishes, heat, and constant vigilance wore down even the most seasoned soldiers. Letters from home were rare, and news from other fronts often reminded them of the scale of the war they were fighting in isolation. Camaraderie became a shield, as soldiers relied on each other to maintain focus and sanity. Leaders emphasized the importance of trust, training, and instinct in these high-risk operations. Those who faltered could jeopardize not only their own lives but the lives of everyone in the unit. The Japanese sniper threat added an almost invisible layer of terror. Unlike conventional infantry, snipers did not march or attack in formation. They blended seamlessly into the landscape, using natural cover to create an omnipresent menace. Soldiers learned that the slightest flash of movement, the glint of metal in sunlight, or even a misstep could reveal their position. Recon patrols were often preceded by scouts who risked their lives to spot potential ambushes. Even then, the jungle's complexity allowed the enemy to exploit gaps in vigilance. Yet, the dangers of the environment were matched by the ingenuity of American soldiers. Improvisation became a survival skill. Men adapted their gear, created makeshift shelters, and learned to move silently through terrain that seemed designed to conceal the enemy. They studied maps, memorized terrain features, and relied on instinct honed by experience. Every patrol became a delicate dance between aggression and caution, with the knowledge that a single mistake could be fatal. For Callahan, the human element was as critical as the terrain or the weapons. Courage in the jungle was not the absence of fear, it was the mastery of it. He had witnessed friends fall to unseen bullets, felt the tension of being hunted, and endured the unrelenting heat and humidity that sapped strength and focus. Yet, despite these challenges, the will to survive and accomplish the mission remained paramount. His tiny pistol, mocked for its size, had become an extension of that will, a tool perfectly suited for the close, unpredictable encounters that defined jungle combat. The lessons of these patrols extended beyond immediate survival. Soldiers learned to read the environment, anticipate enemy tactics, and make split-second decisions with lives hanging in the balance. Training in marksmanship, stealth, and situational awareness became not just military preparation but existential necessity. In this context, the jungle was a teacher as relentless as any opposing force. As the platoon advanced through the dense undergrowth near the coast, the ever-present threat of snipers sharpened every sense. Shadows were watched. Sounds were analyzed. Even the quietest breeze could betray movement. It was in this atmosphere of heightened awareness, exhaustion, and latent danger that Private Callahan would confront the 7 Japanese snipers. A series of encounters that would test his skill, courage, and the underestimated power of a tiny pistol. Human angle. In the dense Philippine jungle, fear was an almost tangible companion. Private James Callahan, like his fellow soldiers, was constantly aware that death could arrive silently, without warning. Every rustle of leaves, every broken twig, heightened the tension. Yet, amidst this constant danger, human resilience emerged. Callahan's courage was not born from a lack of fear, but from a decision to act despite it. The adrenaline that surged through him sharpened his senses, allowing him to move with a careful precision that belied the chaos around him. In these moments, individual willpower became a weapon as vital as any rifle or machine gun. Human instinct, honed by repeated exposure to life-or-death situations, allowed soldiers to navigate a landscape where one misstep could be fatal. For Callahan, isolation intensified the stakes. Alone, separated from the main platoon by the thick undergrowth, he relied on observation, intuition, and nerve. The jungle amplified every heartbeat, every whispered breath. His small pistol, once a source of ridicule, became a lifeline, a tangible manifestation of his agency in a world designed to overwhelm. Each action required meticulous calculation. When to move, when to pause, when to engage. The human mind, capable of rapid adaptation, became as lethal as any weapon. Tactical angle. Jungle warfare in the Pacific was defined by unpredictability. Dense foliage, uneven terrain, and limited visibility transformed conventional tactics into improvisation. Snipers thrived in this environment, exploiting the terrain to create lethal advantage. Standard formations were useless. The typical squad advance could lead directly into ambush. Commanders learned that small units, moving quietly and deliberately, often had the greatest chance of success. Callahan's engagement exemplified these principles. He moved along natural cover, using fallen logs, vines, and shadowed depressions in the earth to mask his approach. The placement of each step was deliberate. One false move could betray him. Snipers relied on patience, observation, and the discipline to remain motionless for hours. To counter them, Callahan adopted the same virtues. Slow, calculated movements, a constant reassessment of potential threats, and the ability to strike with precision in moments of opportunity. This interplay between hunter and hunted elevated the confrontation from mere survival to a tactical chess match in 3 dimensions, where the jungle itself dictated the rules. Technological/weapon angle. At the heart of Callahan's survival was a weapon dismissed by peers. A compact .38 caliber pistol. Its diminutive size had earned it mockery, seen as inadequate against heavily armed adversaries. Yet, in close-quarter jungle encounters, its attributes, lightweight, easily maneuverable, quick to draw, made it uniquely effective. Unlike rifles, which required space to aim and the stability of a flat trajectory, the pistol allowed Callahan to react instantly to threats appearing mere yards away. The pistol's limitations forced adaptation. With a small magazine, every shot had to count. Wastefulness was fatal. Recoil management, trigger discipline, and acute situational awareness became critical skills. In this way, technology was not about raw firepower but about compatibility with human skill and environmental constraints. Callahan's tiny pistol was transformed from a tool of skepticism into an instrument of survival, proving that in jungle combat, practicality often outweighed brute strength. Enemy angle. Japanese snipers in the Pacific were elite soldiers trained for patience, precision, and psychological warfare. They were not merely marksmen. They were hunters, blending seamlessly into the environment, turning the jungle itself into a weapon. These snipers understood that fear was as effective as bullets. By remaining unseen, they forced soldiers to second-guess every movement, slowing advances and draining morale. Their training emphasized concealment, observation, and exploiting natural terrain features to create kill zones. Callahan's opponents were no exception. Each of the 7 snipers he would confront had chosen a position that maximized cover, minimized detection, and provided clear lines of fire. They calculated the soldiers' likely path, anticipated reactions, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. To face such an enemy required more than courage. It demanded intuition, awareness, and the ability to turn the hunter's tactics against them. Leadership angle. Leadership in jungle combat was both strategic and personal. Officers and non-commissioned leaders made decisions that directly affected survival. Assigning patrols, selecting routes, and coordinating communication were acts that could determine life or death. Callahan's platoon leader had ordered the reconnaissance mission knowing the risks posed by Japanese snipers, but also aware that controlling this path was vital to the broader campaign. Leadership extended to empowering soldiers like Callahan to act decisively. In an environment where centralized command was often impossible, initiative and judgment were essential. Soldiers had to make split-second decisions independently, trusting their training, instincts, and understanding of both terrain and enemy behavior. In this sense, effective leadership was as much about preparation and trust as it was about issuing orders. Moral angle. The ethical dimension of combat is rarely discussed in tactical analyses, yet it shaped every action in the jungle. The act of killing, even in self-defense, carried psychological weight. Each sniper Callahan confronted was a trained soldier, a human being with skill and intent. Taking a life, even to preserve one's own, imposed a moral burden that lingered long after the battle. For Callahan, the moral stakes were intertwined with survival. The jungle presented no alternatives. Hesitation could mean death. Yet, beyond instinct and necessity, there was an awareness of the humanity of the enemy, a reminder that war is a collision of both skill and conscience. The capacity to act decisively while maintaining moral grounding is part of what distinguished soldiers in extreme circumstances. Integration of angles. These angles, enemy strategy, leadership, and moral complexity, interact to create a full picture of the engagement. Callahan's courage and skill were tested against not just 7 hidden opponents, but against the intelligence, patience, and calculated danger they represented. Leadership shaped the conditions that placed him in the jungle. Moral resolve shaped the way he acted under pressure, balancing instinct with reflection. In this dense convergence of human psychology, tactical calculation, technological utility, and ethical stakes, the stage is set for the climax. Each factor, environment, opponent, leadership, and morality, collides in a moment of decision that will define the outcome. Callahan's confrontation with the 7 snipers was no isolated incident. It was the apex of all preceding forces, a collision of training, fear, and circumstance. Every choice he made, every measured step through the jungle, now leads to a decisive moment where skill, courage, and ingenuity will determine survival. The sun had barely pierced the dense canopy when Callahan moved forward, every sense heightened. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. Leaves whispered under his careful steps, but the slightest sound could betray him. 7 enemy snipers lay hidden, each waiting, each ready to strike. Callahan's heart pounded, not from fear alone, but from the razor-sharp focus that comes in moments where life and death are inseparably intertwined. He advanced along a narrow trail, fallen palms providing fragmented cover. The first sniper was perched in the branches of a leaning tree, eyes scanning for movement. Callahan froze, assessed, and drew his pistol. In the confined distance, the small weapon felt like an extension of his arm, its balance perfect for rapid response. A single shot, precise, controlled, ended the threat. Silence returned, heavy and oppressive, punctuated only by distant artillery. Moving carefully, Callahan navigated around a collapsed hut. He spotted a second sniper's muzzle peeking from a hollow log. The man was poised, confident, waiting for an instinctive mistake. Callahan ducked behind a moss-covered stump, calculated his line of fire, and fired twice. Both rounds hit their mark. The sniper slumped silently, the log offering concealment even in death. The third and fourth snipers were closer together, hidden in a small clearing. Callahan's strategy shifted from stealth to rapid, decisive engagement. He hugged the jungle floor, using low cover, and targeted the nearest first. His tiny pistol allowed him to maneuver quickly, exploiting his enemy's expectation that a pistol was ineffective at range. Both shots were lethal. The clearing, once a trap, became a tomb. The fifth sniper presented a different challenge. Camouflaged against a rock face, partially visible only by the glint of sunlight on his scope. Callahan's eyes tracked the reflection, his body tense but controlled. A single well-aimed round from his pistol ended the sniper's vigilance. The jungle returned to an uneasy quiet, as if acknowledging the shift in balance. By now, Callahan was moving almost instinctively, every motion a calculation informed by prior encounters. The sixth sniper had taken a lower vantage point near a swampy area. Mud threatened to slow his advance, but awareness and discipline kept him light on his feet. Another precise shot neutralized the threat. With each elimination, the rhythm of the jungle changed. Silence was punctuated by the absence of deadly intent. The seventh and final sniper was the most dangerous. This man had been stalking Callahan throughout, observing his movement, adjusting positions, and exploiting every misstep. Callahan sensed the presence before he saw it. A subtle rustle, the faint scent of disturbed foliage. The confrontation became a tense duel, each waiting for the other to expose a vulnerability. Callahan used the terrain to his advantage, moving diagonally to minimize exposure. His pistol was steady, every shot measured, every moment critical. When the sniper finally revealed himself, Callahan fired twice in rapid succession. The final threat fell, and the jungle fell into an unnatural stillness, broken only by the distant call of birds and the soft murmur of a breeze through the trees. Exhausted, sweating, and alert, Callahan surveyed the area. 7 trained snipers, elites of the enemy force, had been eliminated by a single soldier wielding a pistol many had considered inadequate. The accomplishment was not just technical but psychological. It demonstrated how courage, skill, and the right use of environment and weaponry could overcome overwhelming odds. Yet, victory in the jungle is never complete. Every movement forward must account for hidden dangers. Callahan knew extraction was still necessary. Every step taken now carried the weight of potential ambush. The adrenaline faded slowly, replaced by careful vigilance. Even the slightest miscalculation could undo the hard-won advantage. The engagement's intensity illustrates not only the individual heroism of one soldier but the broader stakes of jungle warfare. The balance between life and death, the interplay of strategy, skill, and environment, and the razor-thin margin separating survival from catastrophe. With the 7th sniper down, the jungle seemed almost to exhale. Callahan remained low, scanning, listening, every sense attuned to the slightest indication of further threats. He knew better than to relax. The Philippine jungle was unforgiving, and reinforcements could appear at any moment. Every shadow, every movement of leaves demanded scrutiny. Yet, the immediate danger, the 7 trained snipers, had been neutralized by a combination of skill, patience, and the precise use of a small pistol. The psychological toll was immediate. Callahan's breathing was steady but heavy, each inhale a reminder of the exertion, each exhale a measure of relief. The adrenaline that had sharpened his senses now made his muscles tense with fatigue. He wiped sweat from his brow and adjusted his grip, mentally reviewing each engagement, noting what worked and what nearly failed. The jungle was quiet now, almost eerily so, the absence of enemy fire a testament to the lethality of his actions. Extraction remained critical. Callahan moved carefully toward the rendezvous point designated by his platoon leader, aware that Japanese forces could have repositioned during the firefight. Every step was deliberate. He avoided open clearings, hugged the shadows, and used fallen logs and foliage for cover. Despite exhaustion, his training and experience dictated every motion, ensuring he remained a difficult target even in retreat. Once he reached a safer zone, Callahan signaled to his unit. The men arrived cautiously, scanning for remaining threats. Their faces, a mixture of relief and astonishment, betrayed the gravity of what had occurred. 7 snipers, an elite enemy force, had been eliminated by 1 soldier, turning the tide in that small sector of the battlefield. The platoon leader commended him quietly, understanding that the operation's success hinged on this decisive, courageous action. The tactical consequences were immediate. The area was now cleared for supply convoys, reconnaissance patrols, and further operations into the region. The removal of 7 snipers restored operational mobility to the platoon and adjacent units, reducing casualties and maintaining the momentum of the island-hopping campaign. The engagement demonstrated that even in the dense, unpredictable terrain of the jungle, individual initiative could achieve disproportionate results. Yet the human dimension of victory was not without cost. Callahan, like every soldier who faces lethal danger, carried the psychological burden of the encounter. He had killed trained adversaries, each one acting with skill and intent. Even in the justified defense of life and mission, the weight of those actions lingered. The jungle's oppressive silence afterward seemed to amplify both triumph and contemplation. Reports filed after the engagement highlighted the exceptional nature of the event. Commanding officers noted the efficiency and precision displayed, citing the use of a small-caliber pistol in multiple close-range encounters as both innovative and effective. Fellow soldiers recalled the courage and composure that allowed Callahan to survive in conditions that had claimed many others. Verification of enemy casualties confirmed the presence of 7 snipers, all of whom had been neutralized in rapid succession. A rare achievement in the annals of Pacific warfare. The jungle, which had concealed death and danger in every shadow, had been navigated successfully. Callahan's actions underscored the interplay of environment, human skill, leadership, and tactical awareness. The outcome was a microcosm of the Pacific War itself. Harsh, unpredictable, and often shaped by individual decisions made under extreme pressure. This decisive encounter marked the turning point of the operation in that sector. It exemplified how courage, skill, and effective use of available resources could neutralize a threat far beyond the apparent capacity of 1 soldier. Yet, as the platoon regrouped and prepared for subsequent movements, the reality of combat persisted. The jungle held more secrets, and the broader campaign would continue to demand vigilance, resilience, and sacrifice. The jungle's oppressive canopy finally lifted enough to allow the first light of day to filter through. Callahan's platoon regrouped, their faces reflecting exhaustion, relief, and the unspoken weight of what had just transpired. 7 elite Japanese snipers, carefully concealed, highly trained, had been eliminated by a single soldier wielding a pistol dismissed by many as inadequate. In tactical terms, the immediate threat had been neutralized, opening the path for further movement and operations in the sector. Reports filed by the platoon detailed every moment of the engagement. Commanding officers were astonished at the precision, composure, and timing demonstrated under extreme duress. The account emphasized not only the elimination of enemy forces but also the psychological impact on the rest of the unit. Fear, which had permeated the jungle patrol, was replaced with cautious confidence. Soldiers who had previously moved with hesitation now advanced with greater assurance, understanding that one determined individual could decisively influence outcomes in the dense, unpredictable terrain of the jungle. Casualty reports confirmed the effectiveness of Callahan's actions. Each sniper had been positioned to create a lethal zone that, if left unchecked, could have inflicted significant losses on the platoon. Their removal mitigated further danger and allowed supply routes to remain secure, a critical factor in sustaining the ongoing campaign. The elimination of these snipers not only preserved lives but also ensured operational continuity for the unit and neighboring formations. The psychological toll of the engagement was substantial. While victory had been achieved, the reality of lethal combat remained undeniable. Soldiers had witnessed death at close range, confronted the fragility of their own survival, and engaged in acts that would linger in memory long after the bullets had stopped. Callahan himself felt a mixture of relief and somber reflection. The exhilaration of survival was tempered by the awareness that each sniper he had killed had been a trained human adversary. The burden of such encounters was rarely acknowledged in official reports but remained an intrinsic part of the soldiers' experience. The operational consequences extended beyond the immediate platoon. Clearing 7 snipers from the jungle allowed subsequent patrols and units to maneuver more freely, reducing attrition and maintaining momentum. Commanders incorporated the lessons learned from Callahan's engagement into broader tactical considerations. Small, agile teams equipped with suitable weaponry could exploit the jungle environment to counter sniper threats effectively. This incident underscored the importance of individual initiative, situational awareness, and adaptability in asymmetric combat scenarios, where conventional numerical superiority was less decisive than skill and judgment. Recognition for Callahan's actions came swiftly, though understated. Military reports highlighted the strategic value of his initiative and precision. Peers acknowledged the courage required to confront multiple hidden enemies under extreme environmental and psychological pressure. While medals or formal citations were part of the bureaucratic aftermath, the respect and trust earned within his unit were immediate and enduring. Soldiers understood that actions in the field could directly alter the course of missions, sometimes more profoundly than abstract commands or numerical strength. The engagement also served as a microcosm of Pacific jungle warfare. Dense vegetation, limited visibility, and unpredictable enemy tactics created conditions where individual skill often outweighed sheer firepower. In this environment, the right combination of human determination, tactical awareness, and weapon adaptability could decisively shift the balance. Callahan's use of a compact pistol, once dismissed, became an example of practical ingenuity meeting situational necessity, demonstrating that the environment itself could redefine conventional assumptions about combat effectiveness. Even as the unit moved forward, the lessons of the engagement were clear. Courage, skill, and adaptability could neutralize threats far beyond an individual's apparent capacity. The jungle, relentless and unforgiving, had been navigated successfully, but only because one soldier had combined instinct, training, and determination into a decisive, life-altering sequence of actions. The immediate tactical success ensured the platoon's survival, allowed continuation of the mission, and illustrated the profound impact a single, well-prepared soldier could have on the battlefield. Beyond the immediate tactical success, Callahan's actions resonated across the operational theater. The removal of 7 trained snipers not only ensured the safety of his platoon but also provided a model for small unit tactics in jungle warfare. Commanders began reassessing how reconnaissance missions could leverage individual initiative, situational awareness, and lightweight, versatile weaponry. The engagement underscored that, in dense terrain, a single soldier's decisiveness could yield results disproportionate to his numbers, altering enemy calculations and contributing directly to campaign momentum. The Japanese forces in the area quickly adapted to the new reality. Sniper teams were redeployed, positions were shifted, and patrol patterns were modified in response to the unexpected effectiveness of a lone adversary. In effect, Callahan's engagement forced the enemy to reconsider assumptions about American small arms use, stealth, and individual aggression. It demonstrated that even weapons previously underestimated, when employed with skill and precision, could neutralize elite adversaries. The psychological impact on the wider American forces was equally significant. Stories of Callahan's engagement spread through platoons and companies, instilling a renewed sense of confidence and tactical creativity. Soldiers understood that while the jungle was treacherous, danger could be mitigated through careful observation, deliberate movement, and judicious use of weapons. Confidence in one's own skill, coupled with respect for the environment, became a subtle but powerful force multiplier. Official reports emphasized both the tactical and human elements of the encounter. Verification confirmed all 7 sniper eliminations, a rare occurrence in the Pacific campaigns. Officers highlighted the strategic value of clearing such threats and the importance of empowering individual soldiers to act decisively under extreme conditions. Callahan's example became a point of study in training briefings, illustrating how preparation, courage, and tactical awareness could influence outcomes far beyond the individual. The engagement also prompted reflection on the moral and emotional dimensions of combat. Callahan and his peers grappled with the reality of killing, the psychological weight of confronting highly trained enemies, and the constant presence of life-or-death stakes in the jungle. Veterans who survived similar encounters often recounted that such experiences reshaped their perception of war, heroism, and responsibility. The balance between survival instinct and ethical consideration became a defining element of soldierly conduct, influencing behavior long after the battle had ended. Strategically, the operation contributed to maintaining the momentum of the island-hopping campaign in the Philippines. Securing jungle paths and clearing sniper threats allowed subsequent units to advance with reduced casualties and more predictable operational outcomes. Supply lines were stabilized, reconnaissance missions were less perilous, and American forces maintained pressure on Japanese defenders who had relied on the lethal efficiency of concealed sharpshooters to slow the Allied advance. Callahan's actions exemplified how individual initiative could have cascading effects, influencing both immediate tactical success and broader operational strategy. The engagement also highlighted the adaptability of American forces in unconventional environments. Dense jungle terrain, previously seen as a hindrance, became an arena where ingenuity, training, and courage could dominate. The use of a small, compact pistol in multiple close-range engagements challenged traditional assumptions about firepower and weapon selection, demonstrating that situational adaptability could outweigh conventional advantage. This lesson reverberated in subsequent operations, informing approaches to jungle combat, patrol strategy, and small unit tactics throughout the Pacific theater. Finally, the human element remained central. Callahan's actions were a testament to individual courage under extreme conditions, illustrating how determination, composure, and mastery of both environment and weaponry could decisively influence outcomes. The 7 snipers, eliminated one by one, had represented not just a tactical obstacle but a profound test of endurance, skill, and nerve. The aftermath, both immediate and lasting, highlighted the intricate interplay between human capability, environmental mastery, and strategic impact, a combination that defined countless engagements across the Pacific campaigns. In the quiet that followed, the jungle seemed almost contemplative, as if acknowledging the extraordinary intersection of skill, courage, and circumstance that had unfolded within its shadows. Private James Callahan's engagement with 7 Japanese snipers was more than a singular act of survival. It was a demonstration of the profound influence an individual could exert on the course of battle when training, instinct, and resolve converged. The significance of this event extends beyond the tactical. It illustrates that war is as much a test of human adaptability and decision-making as it is of firepower or numbers. The compact pistol, once dismissed, became a tool perfectly suited for its environment, a reminder that technology's value lies in how it is applied, not merely in its specifications. In the dense, unpredictable landscape of the Pacific jungles, ingenuity, precision, and courage often outweighed conventional advantage. The psychological dimension is equally enduring. Courage, in its truest form, is the mastery of fear, the ability to act decisively under conditions where hesitation can be fatal. Callahan's composure, his measured engagement with each sniper, exemplifies the delicate balance between instinct, calculation, and moral awareness. Each decision carried consequences, both immediate and lasting, shaping not only the outcome of the operation but the soldier himself. From a broader historical perspective, the engagement reflects the nature of jungle warfare in the Pacific: brutal, unpredictable, and heavily reliant on individual skill and small unit initiative. It is a testament to the countless acts of valor that shaped campaigns far from the headlines, where one soldier's actions could alter the fate of many. Ultimately, the story of Callahan and his tiny pistol is a lesson in human potential under pressure. It reminds us that bravery is measured not in the size of one's weapon, but in the courage to act when the stakes are life itself. It is a quiet but enduring legacy of the Pacific War, a reminder that even amidst chaos, precision, resolve, and the human spirit can tip the scales between survival and oblivion. The jungle holds its secret still, but the echoes of courage, decisiveness, and skill resonate beyond its shadows, a timeless testament to the extraordinary acts that define history.